News.
Breaking news and stimulating talk. News Talk KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by U&I Furniture. American Veterans Traveling Tribute, AVTT, and the Costa Freedom Tribute, both coming to Elkridge Park in North Logan from August 25th through 29th. The traveling exhibit is 83% the size of the original wall and has names of the fallen etched in it. The wall stretches over 380 feet long and contains 58,253 names of fallen soldiers. Besides the wall, there are other displays that honor those who served in World War I, II, the Korean War, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, and other places. First responders will also be given a tribute. Philip Redlinger, Chief Executive Officer and founder of Cache Valley Veterans Association, said the wall came to Cache Valley in 2011 to the fairgrounds, where about 25,000 people came to see it. On Friday, there will be another tribute to first responders, and there will be food trucks and live music. A giveaway will be held with the proceeds going to the Dan Gillenskog Veterans Resource Center. On Saturday, the Michael J. Allred Ride for the Fallen will take place, with registration beginning at 8 a.m. on site. A pancake breakfast for riders and passengers will begin at 9 a.m., with kickstands up at 10:30 a.m., Generally, there are over 100 motorcycles on the road for the fundraiser. The Ride for the Fallen is an annual motorcycle tour of northern Utah and southern Idaho that pays tribute to Lance Corporal Michael J. Allred, a U.S. Marine from Hyde Park, who was killed in action in Iraq. His parents, Brett and Zelene Allred, founded a scholarship foundation to honor their son. KVNU News Time is 5:07. KVNU weather for tonight. Good chance of some showers and a slight chance of thunderstorms this evening. Overnight low in the mid-40s. Chance of precipitation 50%. Partly cloudy in the morning, then clearing on Friday. High temperature in the lower 70s. And mostly clear Friday night before another round of showers Saturday afternoon into Saturday night. It's been cool today. 52 has been our high. It's 51 right now at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Maple Creek Ranch. They are continuing to offer 2.5-acre lots, so visit to see what their equestrian community has to offer at maplecreekranch.net.
Want to improve the look and comfort of your home? See all the possibilities at U&I Furniture. Update your mattress and sleep better tonight on a Therapeutic Queen Comfort Top mattress for $4.99. U&I is also a full-line Maloof dealer. Add a Maloof adjustable base, 4 style choices there. In U&I's dining room section, lots of different brands with something always new to see. One popular set with a table and 4 chairs, $649. And for the family or living room, all kinds of fun new sofa loves and sectionals. If it's in stock or it's in the showroom, it's rated to take home. There's always a better buy at U&I Furniture downtown Logan.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. Today, Utah Attorney General Sean Reyes joined a bipartisan coalition of 31 states and territories in urging the U.S. Food and Drug Administration to halt the surge of youth nicotine addiction by enacting restrictions on tobacco products that disproportionately harm youth. Specifically, the coalition is calling on the FDA to use its regulatory power to eliminate youth-appealing flavors, limit nicotine levels in e-cigarettes and oral nicotine products such as pouches, gum, and lozenges, and restrict marketing for those products. The FDA is responsible for deciding whether to allow the products to stay on the market through the pre-market tobacco product applications filed for each product, and the proposed measures would deny approval for any product that would worsen America's youth nicotine epidemic. Utah Solicitor General Melissa Holyoke said e-cigarettes have a reputation of being harmless compared to traditional cigarettes, but in the last decade, Utah has seen a drastic increase in use among youth and young adults because the candy and fruit flavors of these products make them easy to like. Eliminating those flavors can prevent youth from creating a lifelong unhealthy habit. And a pair of new lawsuits contend the office of Iowa Governor Kim Reynolds is illegally delaying the release of public records related to its $26 million no-bid coronavirus testing contract. Reynolds and her office's public records custodian are the latest officials to be accused of violating open records laws by a Utah-based company formed to investigate testing programs in several states. Paul Huntsman, chairman of the board of the Salt Lake Tribune, recently launched the effort to seek records related to Test Utah and similar programs in Nebraska, Iowa, and Tennessee. His lawyer has filed open records lawsuits in Utah and Nebraska and recently against the Iowa Department of Public Health. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
America's infrastructure connects our communities and makes our nation work. These systems are vital to our everyday lives and Utah's economy. That's why Senator Mitt Romney led the way in passing legislation that makes critical investments in Utah's roads, bridges, and electricity systems. Critical investments in the infrastructure that makes America and Utah great. Here's Senator Romney on C-SPAN.
This is the gateway to better roads, better bridges, better water, better broadband into rural communities, and a better economic vitality for our country.
Repairing our roads and bridges, upgrading electrical systems, and increasing access to information systems is good for our families, good for America, and good for our future. Thank you, Senator Romney, for leading the way on a real infrastructure plan that rebuilds America and invests in Utah. Thank you for voting to invest in us. Learn more at let'sinvestinus.com. Paid for by Citizens for Responsible Energy Solutions.
Pristine wilderness can still be found in the West, where creeks run freely and historic apple trees still bear fruit. Maple Creek Ranch features breathtaking canyon views and opportunities for real estate development. 2.5-acre lots are now available with adjacent wilderness areas that provide endless riding and recreational possibilities. So find your piece of paradise just 35 minutes from Logan at Maple Creek Ranch. Schedule your appointment online at maplecreekranch.net.
Attention homeowners! You may have noticed the ground shift after your foundation has been poured, causing your house to sink or settle. Protect your investment from issues before they happen. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering will stabilize, lift, and eliminate further settling by using Magnum Piering products to save you big money down the road. Polylift Concrete Raising and Piering are the foundation lifting experts. Visit poly-lift.com to schedule your free assessment or call or text 435-999-9309. Polylift is locally owned and operated.
Senior Moments, sponsored by the Empowering Seniors Group on News Talk KVNU.
My name is Bruce Lee. I'm here with my co-host Sid Roeder. We're here for another fun show.
This radio show is sponsored by the Empowering Seniors Group, which is a group of professionals that has dedicated their time and efforts to provide information that is hopefully useful to seniors, their family members, caretakers, and really anybody who's interested.
Senior Moments, every Saturday morning at 7:30 right here on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I'm Jason Williams. Bill Walter here in the studio as well. Hour 2 of today's show. Thanks to Charlie Schill for spending hour 1 with us. This is, it's been really, I've always known, that a lot goes on with theater in Cache Valley, but it's kind of amazing actually to highlight how many choices there are, how many options there are. And even for those not interested, maybe you listen to Charlie and I talk about this stuff and you think, wow, that's cool, but just not for me. That's fine, first off. But the economic boost that this brings in, there are some great studies that have been done on this. And I've linked to a couple on our Facebook page just during the first hour there. But arts and entertainment, even those who never go, who just aren't interested in me. I'm not a fan of theater, maybe not a big concert goer. Maybe at most you go out and see a movie or two in the theaters per year. But this type of stuff is integral to economic activity. Not only does it draw people in and of itself, just for the specific theater event or production, whatever it is, but you also have, movie theaters, for example, actually make, the last 12 months a bad example, but movie theaters make a lot of money. They wouldn't be in business if they didn't. And growing up here in Cache Valley, I would guess every teenager at a certain point has said, "Oh, there's nothing to do here but to see a movie." Was it like that? You grew up in a couple different places, Nebraska.
Yeah.
Was it like that there?
Well, yeah, and it was a much smaller area than Cache Valley, but as a kid, we entertained ourselves in many different ways, even if it was going down to the irrigation ditches and catching crawdads. That was high entertainment.
That's there's something I like about that. Maybe it's just some sort of I don't know if the word would be nostalgia or some kind of romanticizing of that hometown or small town way of growing up. But when it comes to, you think about this from a very serious adult side, like economic activity, public policy as it pertains to that. You're always trying, cities, counties, the state, even the federal government in its own way, are always trying to do what they can to, at very least, get out of the way of people spending money. But where they can, encouraging it, getting people to go do commit an economic activity, And so I think people take for granted the role entertainment plays in that, because we have a tendency to see, I'm trying to think of almost an opposite example of sitting in a theater watching a movie. So we have a tendency to look at a farmer on a tractor, chopping alfalfa for hay. And we instantly there see productivity and economic activity. You walk into, if you say get a tour of some manufacturing facility and you walk in and see the manufacturing lines, we instantly think of economic activity and productivity. But when it comes to theaters, concerts, outdoor festivals, movie theaters, and things like that, we don't think that way. We think of it as a frill, some sort of. But it's just as integral to the overall culture. If you don't have anything to do on the weekends in your town, so this is interesting. Options for teenagers has been tied to crime rates, which, Bill, you growing up where you'd go catch crawdads in the canal, I can very much sympathize with that, although my version is where now there's a huge subdivision. There used to be this giant dirt field.
Oh, yeah.
And my BMX bike.
Or if you have a construction site where there is a big mound of dirt or gravel.
Even better if there's some sort of dangerous equipment right on the other side of that. Yeah.
I can remember one little electric substation they were building or something right across the street from where I grew up, and we went and played on that, and all those rocks, because all of us kids were, "I'm king of the mountain, come and try to take me down," and you're moving all these rocks around, and most of the rocks, or not most of them, but a good share of the rocks, fell out off that pile and onto the sidewalk. And I remember some guy showed up. I guess he worked there, or was a foreman there doing the construction. He yelled at us and he says, "You kids, you're going to go to jail." And I ran across the street and told my parents, "I'm going to go to jail." And they were sitting around the table with some of my other relatives were there, and my dad was like, "Well, it's been nice knowing you, and we'll come and visit you on weekends." And I when you're a little kid, anything an adult tells you, you take it dead serious. So, but anyway, yeah, we kept ourselves fairly entertained.
I think, I can really sympathize with that and grew up much the same way. And I'm not kidding. There was this one dirt hill where we'd ride the BMX bikes where coming down the hill, if you didn't bank, if you didn't make the left, there was nothing there but a rusty old swather. And I remember looking back on that.
You don't really want to hit that.
Yeah, I remember looking back and thinking, I can't believe our parents let us do that. They'd seen it. They'd seen the track. They're like, oh, yeah, have fun. No helmets, no knee pads. And I'm not trying to get in one of those.
You didn't have helicopter parents, obviously. So
no, and I don't want to get into one of those. I find it really annoying when people do that. Back in my day, we didn't wear helmets. Yeah, well, back in your day, you probably still should have.
Well, yeah.
It's just we progress and get smarter, basically, about how to do things. So, not knocking helmets and knee pads. I'm just saying I look back on some of this stuff. But my point again is that this type of thing, for every kid that can stay entertained, fishing crawdads out of a canal or riding a dirt track over and over and over for hours on a weekend afternoon or weekday evening during school year, there's another kid that is headed in a different direction. And so the point is, a lot of this research shows that when it comes to entertainment, things that we tend to write off as like trivial stuff, fun things to do on the weekend, but they're not super important, not like a company that makes something, not like a farmer in the field mowing alfalfa for hay, not like someone in an office that's making a business run that's employing 200 people. We acknowledge the importance of all of that stuff, but we have a tendency to look at movie theaters, traditional theaters, concert venues, outdoor event locations, things like that as trivial, as frills that aren't necessary. But everything says the opposite. From, again, research that I found tying crime and jail recidivism to the number of things that a teenager can do to entertain themselves during the week. Research that shows the construction of a skate park in certain metropolitan areas actually reduce crime in the neighborhood. Petty crime we're talking about here, because we're talking teenagers, so it's mostly shoplifting, minor vandalism, things like that, greatly reduced.
And I remember as a kid, I mean, there have always been kids that were going a little bit wayward. And,
sure, and there always will be.
A classmate, which I had over to my house, he got several of us, or at least me, convinced that we should go steal the penny candy from Safeway.
Did you get away with it?
Yeah, we did until my older sister found out that we were doing that, and she sat me down she and another friend for a stern talk.
That's
like, if you do it one more time, I'm going to tell mom and dad, and
then you'll really,
then I'd really get it.
Going to home jail. This is so. In this research that I'm looking at, we're talking about that type of stuff, but we're also talking about some more serious stuff that could land a kid in juvie, or even start them down a road of more serious crime and a life of crime. Something, and I'm greatly oversimplifying here, I admit, but something as simple as building a skate park, either through a private venture or maybe the city does it. Something like that can have a huge impact. But the same thing goes for adults. This doesn't stop when you turn 18. So having things to do attracts people, both natives and those coming in, for a type of, or it creates a type of culture that if there was a vacuum there instead, it gets filled with something.
Well, yeah, and that's something that's a little less that could get you in serious trouble.
Sure, to say the least. Check it out. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, and we'll be back right after this.
Did you know that if you have rooftop solar and the power goes out, you won't have power? Solar and Battery Backup Solutions has the answer. In partnership with Rocky Mountain Power and their WattSmart Battery Incentive Program, you can take advantage of huge rebates, as much as $3,600. But you must act soon because Rocky Mountain Power is scaling back these huge incentives August 31st. So now is the time to add a sophisticated battery system to an existing solar system or install a new solar system with a battery backup capability. And Solar BBS can finance your new solar system for as little as $49 a month OAC. This means no fears of the zombie apocalypse, EMPs, or wondering how you're going to live with an aging power grid. Sleep much better at night knowing you have residual power stored from solar in powerful batteries. Visit solar-bbs.com for more info. That's solar-bbs.com. Solar and Battery Backup Solutions, your solar and battery solution provider.
Hi, this is Gordon Deal. Friday on This Morning, America's First News, a look at how we got here inside the violent and oppressive history of the Taliban in Afghanistan. Will they operate differently this time? Also, as COVID-19 surges thanks to the Delta variant, drugs that went largely unused early on are now being embraced. And the best and worst ways to raise cash in a pinch. Friday on This Morning, America's First News.
From 4 to 6 on News Talk KVNU, 610 AM and 102 FM. Your station for news and talk.
Reading is fundamental. The nation's largest children's literacy organization invites you to rally our children to read. Visit rallytoread.org and help your child pledge to read 100 books by Read Across America Day in March 2022. Also, watch well-known authors read their favorite books. Find activities to keep young readers motivated, and teachers can enter the Rally to Read sweepstakes for a chance to win 100 books for their own school, subject to rules. Inspire your child to read. Visit rallytoread.org today.
Honorary Forest Ranger Betty White here, lending a hand to my dear friend Smokey Bear. Because for years, he's only said,
only you can prevent wildfires.
But there's a lot more to say. Like if you park your car on tall, dry grass, the hot exhaust pipe can start a wildfire. So keep the animals safe, especially the cute shirtless one. Go to SmokeyBear.com to learn more about wildfire prevention. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service, your state forester, and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I'm Jason Williams, and I apparently, I mean, let's admit it, Bill, this is probably not the first time, but I apparently confused a lot of listeners on Wednesday's show talking about this census, or Tuesday's show, sorry, talking about the census report and the discussion during a Tuesday meeting of lawmakers on Capitol Hill. So, backstory on this for listeners who didn't hear Tuesday's show and weren't confused by it. This is a discussion around new census data that was put out. And everyone's been waiting for this for a long time because it usually is out in June. And it being a redistricting year, every state in the country right now has some sort of redistricting body, a committee or a commission, independent or directly tied to the legislature. Here in Utah, we have both now. And their entire reason for existing is to take census data, come up with fair and representative political maps for every district, from state houses and senates or assemblies to the congressional representation maps. And they can't do that without the census data. But COVID-19, some political silliness, and other factors led to the census itself going a bit longer. And then that, of course, offsetting the time. So instead of June, it's August. And so everybody's in a hurry. So the very first meeting of the Legislative Redistricting Committee, this is different than the voter-created Independent Redistricting Committee. The two will work, together and even in cooperation. But in the end, one is made up of lawmakers. One is made up of members of the public, former lawmakers, former Congressman Bishop, examples from different industries and things like that. And the goal is that all this will be done, well, it has to be done by the end of the year, but the goal is this will all be done by October, maybe early November. And then the legislature will vote on maps, and the political boundaries will be drawn for another 10 years. So that's the full backstory on all this. Where I apparently confuse voters is two different ways, or listeners and voters, hopefully. But one was we played audio clips of lawmakers talking about this, in which a lawmaker said something, and then after that audio clip, I repeated it. And a lot of people, we got 4 or 5 emails from listeners saying, how is that possible? The statement from a lawmaker was that in the census data, you have Salt Lake County grew in population quite a bit. Utah County actually shrunk. But the opposite is going to happen, most likely. The opposite is going to happen with the representation. It's not guaranteed, but based on census numbers, and this is an early look, but likely an accurate one, it is likely that the Salt Lake County area loses some representation in, for example, the House of Representatives here in Utah, while Utah County picks up a representative. So a lot of listeners emailed in and said that cannot be anything but politics, Utah County being the reddest part of the state and Salt Lake County being the bluest. Of course they're going to take one away from Salt Lake County, but that actually is not the case. It does seem kind of it seems like it shouldn't work this way, but here's why it works this way. Salt Lake County will still end up having to sacrifice 4% of, let's look at the congressional seats, the federal representation. So 4% of Salt Lake County currently spans 3 different congressional districts, which is, we can talk about that for a full hour. Why the bluest county in the state is split between 3 different congressional representatives. Now, that's where the politics came in 10 years ago. But they'll have to sacrifice about 4% of a congressional seat somewhere. So somewhere in the county, 4% of the county is going to have to go, into a different congressional district than where the boundaries for the 3 are now that span the county. That's not really going to, in the end, matter to voters, but, to some it might, because they might go from being represented by Congressman Chris Stewart to being represented now by Congressman John Curtis, and maybe that irritates them, or vice versa. But either way, that's, it's a small amount. And again, what confused listeners when I talked about this is the fact that Salt Lake County actually grew. So why would they end up losing? And then Utah County, which actually lost population, didn't lose population but didn't grow as much, why they would end up gaining. Well, basically what it breaks down to is when it comes to these federal congressional districts, they have to equally divide Utah's population. And so the growth in Utah County was less than the growth in Salt Lake County, but it was still enough to bump Utah County into basically a different part of the equation, which means when it comes to representation, Utah County is going to have more of it to account for their population as a percentage of the state's population. And that's the key to all of this. So to listeners who are confused, yeah, it doesn't make sense that if one area grew, another area didn't grow as much or even got smaller, which is the case, then it would be, as a percent of the state's population, it would make sense that the area that grew got the additional representation, right? But again, you're looking at this as a percent of the state's population, nearly 3.3 million people, 4 congressional districts, and you have to come as close as possible to equally dividing the population amongst those 4 districts. Now, there's an argument out there already that Utah needs a 5th, but that's a ways off. Maybe not the next go-around 10 years from now even, maybe the one after that, but still, or maybe not. Basically, that's how it works, is these rules are in place that have to be adhered to. And so even though Salt Lake County increases population far more than Utah County did in the last 10 years, as a percent of the state's population, to hit that goal of as close to possible equal division, as close as possible to equal division of the roughly 3.3 million people in Utah amongst the 4 congressional districts, the boundaries are going to have to shift. And the only way to shift those boundaries means that Salt Lake County is going to be trimmed a bit and Utah County is going to grow a bit. When it comes to state and Senate, state House and state Senate, that's where things get even more complicated, because you have the same thing happening, but in a lot of different areas. From the data so far, it doesn't look like here in Cache Valley we'll be seeing any changes, although, we could be surprised. Most of the changes are going to happen along the Wasatch Front and also in that Utah County and Salt Lake County area again. So, by the way, you can play with this yourself. Redistricting.utah.gov. That's the official legislative site. And then there's UtahRedistricting.org. Yes, which is the Independent Commission site. Both of them have links to different software that you can play with. And now that these numbers are out, actually move the boundaries around and hit the constitutionally mandated goals of redistricting and the rules of redistricting. And you can see what kind of maps you can come up with, how you can change boundaries, congressional districts, state, House, and Senate, to hit the goals and yet have made some huge changes that could impact neighborhoods. And unspoken or unwritten goal of all this is to try to avoid impacting neighborhoods as much as possible. As Senator Lyle Hilliard, former State Senator Lyle Hilliard, told us when he was in the studio a couple of months ago, it's an impossible goal. You're going to impact neighborhoods, but you want to minimize it. So you can go in and try and do this yourself via the links at both websites. I've linked to both on our Facebook page, but just a quick explainer there after some listeners expressed confusion after a lawmaker in an audio clip and then repeated by me afterwards made the statement that Salt Lake County, though growing more than Utah County, would be losing representation and Utah County gaining. Listeners felt that was probably just a political statement by the lawmaker or political motivation by the lawmaker. Nope. It's just that this all has to be, when it comes to those federal delegates, those 4 congressional seats, it has to be split as evenly as possible between Utah's total population. Them's the rules. If you want to know more about the rules, by the way, and how intricate they are, that's an interesting read. I've linked to that on our Facebook page as well. And again, this all has to be wrapped up sometime this fall in time for lawmakers to convene and vote on final maps for representation here in this 10-year redistricting process. We'll be back with more of KVNU's For the People after these headlines with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:38. The news is brought to you by CBD7. The COVID death of a northern Utah resident was among the 14 new deaths reported by the Utah Department of Health today. 5 of the deaths occurred before July 19th. A Cache County woman between 45 and 64 years of age who was hospitalized at the time of death is the 121st coronavirus fatality in Cache, Box Elder, and Rich counties. The Thursday report from UDOH indicates 1,280 new COVID cases. There have been 450,539 total positives in Utah in 16 months of the pandemic. There were 54 new COVID cases reported in northern Utah since Wednesday. The district's total case count grew to 23,989, of which 23,245 are considered to be recovered. Within the district, 1,073 people have been hospitalized over the course of the pandemic. As of today, 1.535 million Utahns are fully vaccinated, over 47% of Utah's total population. At present, there are 399 COVID patients hospitalized in the state, one more than on Wednesday, and 162 are in intensive care units, which is 7 more than on Wednesday. Exciting things are happening at the Logan Library on KVNU's monthly Speak to the Mayor program. Library Director Karen Clark admits it's been a trying year and a half as they have endeavored to carry on while keeping staff and patrons safe. But Clark said the exciting thing is the plans are coming to fruition for a new library building on the same grounds as their current location.
We started actually the work on it while we were during COVID, so March, April of 2020. The mayor was really excited about it. We have an announcement coming that we are going to unveil the final plans at the City Council meeting on Tuesday, September 7th. At 5:30 p.m., and we're so excited. We can't wait to share this with our patrons. We know everyone's going, oh, it's not happening. It's never going to happen. And we're like, it's actually happening, and we're so excited.
Clark said in the interim, the library will be moving to a warehouse location at the Logan Service Center on 600 North at about 10th West. On the same program was Assistant Director Joseph Anderson. Although they are in an old building, the library has kept up with times in what they offer.
We have craft instruction, we have language learning instruction, we have obviously e-books, downloadable books, downloadable audio books.
And Clark, going back to Clark, she's also excited about the return of a popular festival in September.
September 11th, we're doing our Hispanic Heritage Festival. We've done this for the past several years. We, of course, couldn't do it last year. It's an outside event. It takes place on a Saturday afternoon. We begin at 4 o'clock. We have vendors selling Hispanic food. We have entertainment such as dancing, music, singing. It's just a party. Where you think libraries don't have parties, we have parties.
As for the temporary move, the timetable is up in the air, but Clark said they do have a goal to begin construction next March, which means the existing building would be demolished starting in February. So with that timetable, the library would be in the temporary location on 600 North by January, but they will have to see how things develop. And snow could be seen forming near Bald Mountain Pass, high in the Uinta Mountains this morning. A UDOT camera on SR 150 in the western part of the Ashley National Forest showed a dusting of white powder covering trees and the ground at around 6:30 a.m. Utah may have the best snow on Earth, but we usually don't see much powder in the summer. Fox 13 reports this is not the first time Bald Mountain Pass has seen summer snow. The area saw snow as early as July 10th back in 2015. In Utah, the average first day of snow is November 7th, according to the National Weather Service. KVNU News Time is 5:43.
Trouble with pain, sleep, or anxiety? Want better health? Try CBD7, the CBD experts. You simply can't get this water-soluble CBD at grocery, convenience, or health food stores. Water-soluble CBD7 absorbs 15 times better and tastes great. CBD7 has the only clinically proven formula with real measurable results. Many feel better in minutes. CBD7 is not a drug and has no side effects. Other CBDs just can't do all that. Visit CBD7 today. Learn about CBD and try our best for free.
KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy, patchy smoke this evening, a chance of rain showers and a slight chance of thunderstorms this evening. Then a chance of rain showers after midnight, the overnight low in the mid-40s. And then partly cloudy in the morning, then clearing on Friday, high temperature in the lower 70s. Mostly clear Friday night, and then a 30% chance of showers and thunderstorms again Saturday afternoon, high around 80. Today, we've been to 52 for the high is all. Right now, it is 51 here at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by CBD7. If you want CBD, you want what works. CBD7 helps pets, too. Order CBD7 online or look for the big pink CBD7 sign at 473 South Main in Logan. Learn about CBD and try their best for free. For more details on these and other stories, visit CashValleyDaily.com.
Oh, little piggy, let me in or I'll blow this building down.
Nice try, Wolfie, but this here building's made from steel.
All right then, here goes. Gosh, that didn't work.
A building from Northern Steel Buildings will keep out the big bad wolf, and they don't break the piggy bank. Visit northernsteelbuildings.com to see their quality work or call 435-677-7300. Northern Steel Buildings. Value from concept to construction.
Friday edition, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show. Couple of awesome guests to close out the week for you. We'll have former NFL quarterback Jay Cutler, who ended up losing a lot of money over saying masks don't work, and Alex Berenson. Plus, Buck,
we'll be talking about the latest from Afghanistan. Are we getting Americans out? Is the Biden administration waking up to this reality on the ground? That and more coming up on the next Clay Travis and Buck Sexton Show.
10 to 1 on News Talk KVNU, 102 FM and 610 AM.
Steel-coated floors of Cache Valley was voted best of Northern Utah in the remodeler contractor category. They thank you for your vote. If you want to have a garage floor look amazing, contact Steel-Coated Floors. You'll love the results. Find them online at steelcoatedfloors.com.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months.
When he got injured, I wasn't prepared, but I knew I had to be strong.
When I was told about John's injury, I was in complete shock. I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. For thousands of severely injured veterans, everyday life is filled with barriers.
It was really the little things throughout the house. Counters that you can't roll up to. I had to drag my wheelchair down steps.
I want to help, but he is so determined.
At Homes for Our Troops, we build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access, roll-in showers, and automatic door openers that allow them to function independently and focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
This house has given me my family back.
To learn more, visit hfotusa.org.
Before I was adopted, I felt like nobody wanted me. I felt like my life was already over.
At a certain age, they don't want you. You're troubled and stuff. Even if I wanted to be adopted, who would adopt a 17-year-old?
Inside, I knew, I'm not a troubled kid. I know what I'm in for, why I'm here.
My biggest fear was that I would age out and not know how to be sufficient on my own.
I had nightmares every single day at my birth mom's house. It was just really scary for me living there.
I was scared, I was lost, and I felt hopeless.
I felt like, don't I deserve to feel happy and loved?
I just wish I'd gotten adopted sooner.
Unfortunately, the number of children waiting to be adopted from foster care is on the rise. The Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption is the only public nonprofit charity in the U.S. focused exclusively on foster care adoption. You can help. Go to davethomasfoundation.org to learn more.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People. Tomorrow on the program, For the People movie show. We'll be talking a little bit about, it's again a slow week. Opening tomorrow, I think, one called The Protege, doesn't look great. One called Reminiscence, doesn't look great. But next week, the week after, and the week after that, all the way to the end of October, there's something big every weekend. So summer movie season still has a few weeks left in it, and then fall movie season looks almost bigger than summer movie season. So we'll talk about that. Andy also has kind of an update on the box office so far this summer. Suicide Squad so far topping the list, but it's interesting why audiences are responding this way to us. We'll talk about that as well. That's in the For the People movie show tomorrow in hour 2 of the show. And just a quick reminder as well. We had confirmation of this just this week, but Senator Mitt Romney will be joining us next week. I'm looking forward to this because, I've reached out to Senator Lee's people as well because I've been really intrigued. I'm not trying to start anything here, although wouldn't that be great to be the show where that argument did start between two United States senators? But that's not my goal here. I'm just intrigued by this. You don't see this happen often. The Senate, obviously not a homogenous governing body by any means, a little bit more so than the House of Representatives at the federal level, but still pretty eclectic to say the least. But usually you see a lot of homogenous voting between senators within a single state. So you'll see, rarely will you see senators, Texas sometimes because they have more in the House and Senate. So that can happen a bit more there. But most states with their two senators voting a lot. And by more in Texas, I mean Texas is a big state. And so where Utah has like one blue area and the rest red, Texas has like this polka dot thing going on. And usually, though, outside of Texas, you see senators together on something. They might have, differences in say, popularity. They'll both vote yes for something. One hated it, one liked it, but just couldn't get on board. Or they'll both vote no for something, and the only difference you'll find is one is absolutely opposed at all costs. The other may be opposed to this version, but if something different comes back, might be a yes. So you'll see differences like that, but in the votes, usually pretty consistent. Senator Lee and Senator Romney, though, most recently on this infrastructure bill, in the past on impeachment, on discussions over a voting rights bill and things like that, have taken very different positions, polar opposite positions. And yet, the two work together, and Senator Mike Lee has even come to the defense of Romney after some handful of people within the Utah GOP wanted to censure him a little while ago. Senator Lee came to his defense and said, this is silly. Let's not start doing this within the Utah Republican Party. So I'm just curious to talk to them both about this. And I'm going to ask this question directly of both of them when we're able to get Senator Lee on. I'll let you know. But I'm going to ask them about that, their thoughts on their polar opposite votes on a couple of different issues. Again, most recently, the infrastructure bill. Senator Lee just absolutely opposed from the get-go. Senator Romney got involved, literally down in the trenches, working with other Republicans alongside Democrats and coming to bipartisan agreements and stuff, and then of course voted yes for the bill in the end, obviously. So again, not trying to start anything, not looking for drama here. I'm just curious how two people who basically seem to be of the same mind on most issues, why they have these few issues where they go in total opposite directions. So we'll be able to talk to him about that. Senator Romney will be joining us midweek next week here on the show. Again, I've reached out to Senator Lee's people, and they're working on a date that we can make that happen as well, hopefully within a week or so after Romney's visit, and we'll get to talk to him about these things. I don't know why I find it interesting, I guess. A listener chiming in here and saying, well, obviously lawmakers aren't going to be homogenous. No, I agree. But usually, especially when it comes to the two senators from each state, usually they're just in total agreeance. I mean, you usually don't see. You can see. Completely never any difference. But when it comes to voting, usually the two will vote yes or no in the end together on legislation. Not the case with Lee and Romney. So an interesting thing. We'll talk to him about it, starting with Mitt Romney midweek next week. More of KVN News for the People, wrapping up today's show right after this.
All right, Taylor, you got your cowboy hat?
Check.
Horse?
Already saddled.
Horse trailer?
Of
course!
What about your boots?
Still got my pink ones.
What about trucks, Taylor? I'm not seeing very many trucks on our lot at West Motor. I don't want to hear back-ordered, postponed, out-of-stock, microchip shortage, or any of that crap. I want to hear something positive.
I can do that. Hold on to your bootstraps, because it's time for the famous West Motor Rodeo Day sale.
It's no secret that inventory is limited, but the quickest and best way to get your new Ram truck is to have one built especially for you. Get the features you want, the equipment you need, and the right color without paying for anything that you don't want. We'll throw in some big discounts, and Ram will build that truck just the way you like it.
That's what we do around here. We find solutions.
Simply come into West Motor Company in Preston, and we'll get your new Ram truck ordered and send you home with a couple of our famous West Motor Rodeo jackets.
West Motor, how the West was won. WestMotorCompany.com.
The Ride for the Fallen charity motorcycle ride is Saturday, August 28th at Elk Ridge Park in North Logan. This ride honors Lance Corporal Michael Allred and our local and national fallen military members. Registration is at 8 a.m. with breakfast at 9 and a ceremony to remember the fallen at 10 just before the ride, and kickstands up at 10:30. Ride for the Fallen, Saturday, August 28th. Register on site starting at 8 a.m. the day of the event. Brought to you by Cytiva, the Cache Valley Veterans Association, and American Heroes Motorcycle Association, with proceeds going to the Dan Gillenskog Veterans Resource Center.
Did you get a landscape plan and now wonder what's next? You need Canyon Landscaping. They can build any plan into a signature landscape. Since 1999, their team has viewed educating clients as a crucial part of every project. This ensures customers get the best finished landscape for their specific site. No two sites are the same, so be sure to come to the experts with expertise and knowledge of delivering on any landscape plan. Call 752-3838 or go to canyonlandscaping.com. Canyon Landscaping. Look for the leaf.
Join us each week for Music and the Spoken Word, featuring the Tabernacle Choir at Temple Square, the longest-running continuous weekly network broadcast in the world, celebrating over 90 years on the air. Each episode features modern and traditional arrangements of spiritual, patriotic, classical, and contemporary music, and a timely, inspiring message. Music and the Spoken Word with the Tabernacle Choir.
Sunday mornings at 8 and again in the afternoons at 6 on News Talk KVNU.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. I won't run through the whole thing here because most of it is interviews with individual students. But last week we talked a bit about this. There's another housing snafu at USU, and unbelievably, it's the same developer behind it. So a few years ago, we had the Factory housing complex that was not going to be, had sold leases, but wasn't going to be opening on time after all. And then it took, was it a year, Bill? Do you remember? It was a while before it actually opened.
It was, before.
I'm trying to remember what the news story is.
Students had already signed contracts. They were expecting to move in the fall, and, well, it's not ready. I think it was close to 9 months later or something. I can't remember.
Yeah, that's
6 months.
It's just, it's not the end of the world. There are options, but man, I would be so angry. This same developer, by the way, caught up in a lawsuit in another state. Now behind the second situation just like this. It's called, this time, the 800 Block Apartments. It's right up there. I mean, it's I think it's actually in the advertisement they were using to get people to sign leases with the promise they'd be open by now, and they're not going to be. 27 feet from campus or something like that, it says. It's basically on the corner where the frat houses are. That's how I describe it to anyone who knows campus. You know where
or
I'm
just
talking
north
about.
of there, right? Or
that's right. Yeah, not right on the corner, but on that block, just north of the Fraternity Row, but on the same side. It's not going to be open. USU Statesman journalists went out and interviewed students affected by this, and they have a count. Over 300 students found out just in the last couple of weeks, as school is about to start, that the leases they signed for this planned housing development 800 block no good to them right now.
And guess what? There's a huge housing shortage.
That's right. Scrambling to find housing. Some students telling Statesman journalists they may actually have to forego this year of school because of this. And again, same developer behind this incident as behind that factory housing delay, which basically played out exactly the same way. Developer has been pretty mum about this, releasing only a statement saying that construction delays, the excuse being given. But twice in a row? I don't know. Tomorrow on the show,